Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Church Leadership Lab, the podcast where we hope to bring you conversations that help empower healthy churches. That's what we love getting to do. We're your hosts, Scott and Kacie. Hello, Kacie. How are you?
I'm good, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Rested? You're just ready to face the day?
Feeling amazing, ready to go. Kacie, something I've never told you actually about the podcast. And people may not know this either, but I do like a transcript. It'll pull a transcript and you can upload subtitles to YouTube just so things are as accessible as can be. But they always spell your name wrong.
I'm sure.
I think like Casey. So
obviously, yes, that's the most common for those that don't know, and no one cares. It's Kacie, which you should know. This is not a fun story, but it's just fact. As a child, I despised my name. I'm going to age myself, but Stacy was the name to have when I was growing up. Yep. Kacie was not cool. So I, in protest, in like elementary aged Kacie protest, I named every pet, every stuffed animal, like anything that I got the privilege of naming. Yep. I named it Stacy, obviously, like thinking that would like send some message to my parents of how they had wronged me, of course, and I grew it. Now I love it. Now I like that it's not Casey, but I can only imagine the transcripts.
I feel like Stacy was like a main character in the Babysitters Club.
Probably Stacy, Heather, and Jennifer. Like that was everybody. And I was so jealous. And now I'm like, I'm glad I'm not that. Right? I don't know a lot of Kacies and I don't know a lot of Kacies.
Yeah. You landed, you came around. You're like, no,
I made it.
Yeah. Well, I try and change it. So every once in a while I might forget. So for those diehard fans from the day oneers, the ones who have been here, if you go and find the transcript with Casey, you get a special bonus gift, of which I have no idea what it will be, but
it's an email from me saying thanks for
and
caring.
A phone call from me just to talk, just to hear how you're doing and just to talk.
So. And ask you if you have any childhood trauma about your name or misspelling thereof.
Yeah, we'll just talk through it together.
I'll talk about anything.
Yeah. Well, typically this is where I kind of introduce our guests for the show, but this episode, you've already met your guests so far. Surprise. Because I know after most episodes, people are like, that was good. I just wish I could talk with Scott and Kacie more.
Forever.
No, what we're doing today is talking about something that I think many of you probably experience, probably are working through, feel the stress of, but then also talking about something that hopefully might help. So there's two parts there. The first thing I'm talking about is the constraint of time. That's one of the things that I know from my time working in ministry. Kacie, I'm sure you could relate. And even beyond, I think people understand it seems like you get less and less time, but more and more things to do within that time. Yep. And that can be just such a challenge, such a stressor for ministry leaders, not to mention what ministries look like the last, 2-3 years and what it looks like moving forward. Managing and understanding how to manage time is just such a huge thing. And Kacie, did you experience that in ministry?
Well, I'm just in life, and you're absolutely right. Like you don't have to be in ministry to feel that. I think every human being probably does, but those in ministry today, we talk about this all the time. You have to be all these other things that have nothing to do with why you became a minister, why you went to seminary, why you worked at a church, and you still have to cram that into your day and do it really, really well. And there's only so many minutes and hours every day, but more and more and more and more and more and more to do. And at the end of every week, Sunday still comes. So don't forget, you still have to speak a stellar sermon and your worship has to be killer and your graphics have to be perfect. And it's hard.
Well, and that's the thing too, is there is a unique weekly rhythm to ministry that I don't know if everybody fully understands unless you've been in it or unless you maybe have a job or something in your life where it is like Nope. Every week, like clockwork, this hits
Mhm.
again. And yeah, there's that phrase. I think you just use it like Sunday's always coming.
Yeah.
That is well known in the ministry world because it's true. And because there's those tensions but maybe even you find yourself outside of a role that has to do with Sunday morning. So maybe you're a church admin, maybe you are, not necessarily preaching or leading worship, but your role has to do with something else. It's still sort of baked into the DNA of weekly ministry that Sunday's coming.
Well, and not even weekly too, right? Like you think seasonality and think in I want to say like corporate, for lack of a better, let's say like corporate and ministry, you occasionally get a long weekend, you get a holiday, or you get a summer break. That can almost have a reverse effect in ministry. It's almost like, oh no, that's one less day that I've got. It's like my 4-day work week became
Yeah.
a 3-day, and
Yep.
I still have 7 days of work to do. Or, we go through that, what we kind of call the summer slump, when a lot of people go on vacation. You still have to do church, sometimes for less people who are physically there, but the workload doesn't become less.
Right.
So it's almost like an inverse effect. When the corporate world gets a break, we almost have even more work to do, but even less time to do it in.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, one of the difficult things as well is, as ministry continues to change and evolve. I mean, there's a whole, we talk about on the show a lot, but there's a whole aspect of kind of a digital experience, the whole idea of, man, how do you engage people now with what is the front door, which is
Yeah.
online. And there's a lot of that stuff that certainly they're not teaching, whether it's seminary or your undergrad or whatever, but also can be challenging. And as somebody who lived in that world in ministry, it may look like it just takes a moment, but that stuff takes so much time. So
Yeah.
I think too, probably what people are feeling is, okay, now there's things that are actually taking longer, which means I have less time.
Yeah. This is kind of depressing.
Yeah, I didn't mean for that. And so here's
What's the good news? Is there, I hope this is going to take a turn at some point.
yeah, no, that's it. That's the end of that. No. We could do a cliffhanger, part 1 and part 2, but
Right.
that would be boring. So, yeah, and so I think most kind of understand that, resonate that, experience that. And so one thing that we're really excited about that we have coming up, I know we've kind of mentioned it here and there on the show. There's been kind of this little commercial playing for it. Coming up February 15th, 1 p.m. Eastern, the Healthy Church Summit. Now this will be our third one. We've gotten to do a couple of them. Last one, you and I were in Nashville, and we were able to have one where we kind of, it was in October. We talked about kind of end of year, finishing the ministry year strong. This one's going to be talking about making the most of your time. And the way that we're approaching that is there's a few ways to kind of what's the phrase? There's a few ways to skin a cat or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know who said. I've never skinned a cat. Don't really plan on doing that ever.
Doesn't sound like something I'm going to do anytime soon.
Unless you're in like the taxidermy field. I don't know if you're kind of going to ever do that, but.
And if I were, I think that there's multiple ways. Like
Yep.
Those are not skills that I have.
Yes. But whole point being, and tangent that was unnecessary being, we're going to look at it a few ways. One, we're going to have some people kind of speaking to real practical leadership level. How do you prioritize well? What does that look like? How do you take your time? Like we just said, the whole bucket of everything that you have to do. And how do you actually know what's important? How do you balance the urgent versus the important? How do you kind of do all of that? So just some really practical teaching. But then also looking at that thing we were just talking about, the digital engagement piece. Mm-hmm. What does it look like to do well, to excel in that? And so we're going to have Jenny Catron actually speaking to some of the leadership level stuff. Jenny's been on the show. She's fantastic. But Mark McDonald, who also podcast guest, a little bit of a theme here. he's going to be speaking to some of that digital engagement piece. How do you be known for something as a church, show up online, show up with all of your digital, whether it's, social media, website, there's so much more that goes into it, mobile app. How do you do that in a way that is authentic to who you are, but also is impactful? And we're also going to actually get to jump into a little bit of what it is that we do here and how we've kind of designed some of these tools to give you that output that you need, but also do it in as little time as possible. Again, people aren't looking to be web developers and mobile app creators and all these things, but you kind of need that stuff. So how do you use those tools to do that? We're gonna have a few other kind of surprises. You and I are gonna be there again. I'm super excited, not just for the event itself, but I think to really, invest in church leaders this way.
Totally. And these are some of my favorite speakers. You know this, and I feel so redundant every time I say this, but I love that we have leaders who don't just talk around things, but they give us really practical tools. And maybe that's just me. Maybe I love to cook because I can follow a recipe, right?
Yeah.
Like I can follow instructions and then come away with something really, really beautiful. And I love the way Jenny and Mark communicate, because they don't just talk around these topics. We go, hey, that sounds really great, but I actually don't know how to do anything you just talked about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like actually then walk away with, I can do that, or I can do this. So the practicality, anybody can coach or teach or be super motivating, but I need the ingredients. I need the step-by-step. And they are two leaders that when they communicate, I always walk away with something really tangible. So I love that. The efficiency piece, man, that's just bringing it all home, right?
Yeah.
I do not have the time to learn an entire new go to school to learn an entire new skill in a day.
Right.
But I still have to produce something. So yeah, let's become really efficient and produce great tools. And the fact that we get to help churches do that is actually kind of neat.
It is,
so
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, because I think the goal is, how do you spend the least amount of time on the things that are necessary but not as important, and how do you spend the most amount of time on the things that are important, that are only the things that you can do, right? So the least amount of time on admin, the least amount of time on your digital tools, the least amount of time doing that, so you can have the most amount of time pouring into people, strengthening your team, loving on volunteers, improving your systems, processes, all of that stuff. So I'm super pumped for it. Again, February 15th, 1 p.m. Eastern. Now, here's what else. I think that stuff is worth it on its own, but we're going to have some giveaways again. And I love giveaways because you just straight get to give like free stuff to people.
Who doesn't love giveaways?
And it's like my favorite thing. So I got the list here, the giveaways, iPad Pro. So we got that going on. $500 gift card to Amazon, Kindle Paperwhite, because what are you going to do with all your books? You know what I mean? You got a bunch of books behind you, Kacie. I got a bunch of books, and they're great decorations, but maybe we want to get them all in a Kindle,
I would love it.
Beats headphones, so you can listen to this podcast in even clearer, noise canceling, high definition. Lunch for your team. We got free software. There's all sorts of stuff, and so I love that. Last time we did giveaways, and what was fun, I actually got to communicate with the folks that won, and got to first of all hear them be like, what? I got like a MacBook coming, or new headphones. Awesome. But then I also got to see they sent some pictures and using, like somebody was teaching a Sunday school class with their new, computer and just stuff like that.
Can I make a request?
So cool. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I mean, I can always ask, right? Whoever wins lunch, I want to go have lunch with them.
All right.
I just want to show up and surprise, I'm having lunch with you today.
We need to adjust then and say you win lunch with Kacie.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. I can't even estimate the value of that prize. It's gonna blow the roof off.
Those old MasterCard commercials where it's priceless.
Yeah. Oh, throwback, by the way. Great commercials.
Yeah. Which doesn't mean priceless. It means like the value is below zero. But
okay. All right. Easy there.
Quality time.
That's right. But you can't put a price on that. So
I know you can't. I
yeah,
think it'd be fun. I want to go have lunch with people. I want to deliver stuff in person.
I know. That would be awesome. So yeah, we have giveaways for those who register and attend. And so, man, it's going to be an awesome time. And the reason why we did want to take kind of a podcast episode to talk about this is that, yeah, I do think it's going to be really helpful for church leaders, not only to learn and grow, just regardless of where you're at in ministry, but also I think to hopefully, like you said, walk away with some practical things that can be
Yeah.
done to bless, to grow, to make the most of your time. And so, man, I'm looking forward to it. Any last words of encouragement, Kacie?
Now, I need this more than anybody. The year, or gosh, every day goes by and I get my priorities, so that being able to stop and go, is that, you said it, everything is important. Is it the most important? Sometimes that has to shift in real time, but I really like this exercise to start off the top of the year,
Yeah.
reprioritize, and then walk away going, man, I really know exactly which is the most important use of my time. So I think it's a great way to start the year. I should do it every year.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. So listen, here's the deal. Maybe you've listened to this up until now and you're like, cool, I'm in, this is great. There is a link below wherever you're watching this. So whether it's a description or show notes or whatever it might be, there is a link there. You can click that and register. It's free and it's virtual. I don't think we said that up until this point. It is virtual. So if you just bought a plane ticket, you can get that refunded, probably still in the cancellation window. You're fine. But this is going to be a virtual event. And so click that link and register. Just by registering, you'll be entered to win some of those giveaways. And that's how you get signed up. We'll send you a link for it, bunch of reminders, you can button to add it to your calendar, all that stuff. But we would love for you to be there. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to have you participate. And hopefully we'll be able to, really help and encourage you and help you grow further so that you could do more this year in ministry. So click that link, sign up. Thank you so much for listening to this today, for being with us. We're always grateful. Make sure to subscribe, leave a review, all that stuff. We're going to be back with some more conversations. We have some really cool guests coming up that I'm super, super excited about. And so we're excited to bring those to you soon. But thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.